Welcome to the lecture series in food microbiology. In this series of lectures, so far we have seen the microbes which generally inhabit food, those which cause spoilage, those which are pathogens. We also saw how to process food in such a way so as to eliminate these microbes. Along with it, we have also seen the different types of diseases which are caused by microbes. In continuation with this topic, we are going to see what are the natural toxicants which are present in food. It can be animal based food or plant based food, but they do have some components which can be harmful to humans or the animals which consume them. The toxic amino acids. Normally, our diet does not contain any common individual amino acids in too high or in toxically irrelevant concentrations. See, amino acids are important. They are the building blocks of proteins, as you all know, and most of them we get from the food, and these amino acids are accepted by our body to make up the various proteins which are required by us. So, in general, whatever we consume as food, normally the dosage of these amino acids which is present in them normally will not be too high to make them or to render them toxic. But in plants, some plants contain rare non-proteinaceous amino acids that may have adverse effects on the organism. There are some amino acids in plants, like some bacteria also have specific amino acids. For example, when we talked about nisin, which is an antibiotic which is used as a food preservative, we saw that it contains the lanthionines, specific amino acids which are normally not present in any protein. So, like that, you do have some plants which contain some non-proteinaceous amino acids which when we consume can become toxic. Hypoglycine A. This is otherwise beta methylene cyclopropyl alanine, and its gamma glutamyl conjugate hypoglycine B. So, two components, hypoglycine A and hypoglycine B. Normally, these are present in fruits of ackee, which is otherwise Bligia sapida. This is a native fruit of West Africa, normally consumed by people. Eating of the raw fruit induces hypoglycemia due to the inhibition of the gluconeogenesis cycle. So, the raw fruit, because of the hypoglycine A and the hypoglycine B which is present in them, when people consume in them, it will reduce the blood glucose level. It is only the fleshy areoles around the seeds that are edible, and the fruit must be picked after it has opened naturally, and it must be fresh and it must not be overripe. The symptoms of poisoning are vomiting, convulsions, hypothermia and coma. Fatalities are also possible. Hypoglycin binds irreversibly to coenzyme A and to carnitine. So, because of this irreversible binding, their coenzyme A and carnitine will no longer be available for metabolism. Thereby, if these are not available, beta oxidation of fatty acids will not happen. So, because of this hypoglycin binding to coenzyme A and carnitine, the beta oxidation of the fatty acids becomes inhibited because they are no longer available in the metabolism. And it is this beta oxidation of fatty acids which normally provides the body with ATP, which is the energy source, NADH and acetyl coenzyme A, and all these three are used to supplement the energy produced by glycolysis. So, when all these three are lacking because of the inhibition of beta oxidation, naturally you become sick. The 3,4-hydroxypyridine, otherwise it is called as 3,4-DHP, this is a metabolite of mimosin, and this is contained in legumes like the leucaena, and these legume is very common in Hawaiian Islands, and this is normally eaten by ruminants as they graze. And normally in ruminants, the 3,4-DHP can act as a goitrogen. So, there it causes growth retardation of the ruminants, as well as loss of hair and a decrease in the bone strength of the birds. So how does this 3,4-DHP act? It chelates zinc and magnesium, two minerals which are very important. So thereby, when zinc and magnesium are chelated, there would be an associated decrease in the levels of thyroid and the other hormones in the plasma, as well as a large number of enzymes that are involved in the synthesis of DNA. So what happens is that zinc and magnesium are cofactors in a large number of enzymatic pathway for the synthesis of DNA. So when these two are chelated because of 3,4-DHP, the metabolism becomes completely altered, and as a result of which, because of the enzymatic decrease in the enzymatic activity, the level of the thyroid hormone as well as the other hormones in the plasma also becomes decreased. Methyl selenocysteine, selenomethionine and several other selenium containing amino acids which originate from the plants grown in the soil that has high content of selenium can cause, in the case of long term consumption, the formation of defective and easily separable hooves and hair of the animals. Okay, now this is something which we have to be careful. See, in many cases, the environment or the nature of the rhizosphere or the soil where a crop is growing has a drastic effect on what gets accumulated there. So a large number of heavy metals and even selenium, cadmium, nickel, lead, all of them can get accumulated in the plant because they are rich in the soil. And when you consume crops or fruits from such plants which are being growing, for example, here we are talking about selenium, these plants will contain, because they have incorporated the selenium from the soil, they will contain methyl selenocysteine, selenomethionine and several selenium containing amino acids. So what will happen is that if you continue to take these components for a long period of time, selenium normally inhibits hair growth, keratin and all those stuff, and in animals the hooves will become very fragile. So this is again poisonous or lethal. The reason for this is the inclusion of these amino acids into the structural proteins. See, long term consumption, these amino acids would now start becoming part of the proteins which are formed in the body. So instead of your normal methionine or normal selenium, it's the selenomethionine or the selenium containing amino acids which are now part of the proteins. So in the case of humans, nausea, vomiting and diarrhea as well as hair loss have been observed after eating nuts of Lecythis oleracea, which contains selenocystothionein in high concentrations. So this is a demonstrated effect when people consumed nuts of Lecythis which contained selenocystothionein. They manifested the symptoms of nausea, vomiting and hair loss. So this indirectly proved that higher consumption of selenium containing amino acids is not good or is toxic to animals including humans. The next category we are going to talk about is toxic lipids. Dietary lipids are important. They are required for the basic bodybuilding as well as as an energy source. But when they become in excess, the toxic effects or the deleterious effects can be divided into three main groups. One is withdrawal from the habitual diet, 2, inclusion of new lipids into the diet, and 3, hereditary errors in the lipid metabolism. Erucic acid, mustard oil, rapeseed oil and the oils obtained from other Brassica genera contain erucic acid. This erucic acid is a 22 carbon monounsaturated fatty acid. So when this erucic acid was fed or when it was included in the diet of rats which were weaned from the mother's milk immediately after weaning, when the diet was incorporated with erucic acid, the caloric concentration of the erucic acid exceeded 20%, and this manifested as growth retardation, the fatty infiltration of the cardiac muscle, infiltration of the mononuclear cells and fibrosis in the rats, showing the deleterious effect of the erucic acid. Canola, which is a common cooking oil, is low erucic acid species of the rapeseed developed for human consumption, and this oil is often used for cooking. So canola, which is actually taken from rapeseed, it has been treated and it has been developed so that its erucic acid content is reduced, so that it becomes safe for human consumption, that it can be used as a cooking oil. Stercolic and malvallic acids. Stercolic acid is a C19 fatty acid, malvallic acid is a C18 acid, and these two are natural components of the oils produced from the seeds of the family malvales, like Gossypium, cotton, or the kapok tree, which is Ceiba. So as the name indicates, malvallic acid belongs to Malvaceae. So the cotton family, they contain the C19 and the C18 family. Cotton doesn't come, the cottonseed oil does not come under the purview of human diet, but animals do graze on the cotton leaves and herbs. So these, as well as similar cyclopropane fatty acids, are carcinogenic, and they have remarkably increased the carcinogenicity of aflatoxin in the rainbow trout. So this is an associated outcome. These CFAs are carcinogenic, and aflatoxin, we already saw, is toxic, and in the rainbow trout the carcinogenicity of this aflatoxin was increased because of the presence of the CFA. They are also associated with the reduction of egg production in hens fed with the cotton seeds, causing the pink color of the eggs, as well as the growth retardation and reproductive disorders in rats. Normally, the CFAs interfere with animal fatty acid, that is, they desaturate of the stearic acid, protein, and the carbohydrate metabolism. Such toxic acids are either deactivated or removed by a normal industrial treatment of the oils. So even though these toxic acids are present, they can be removed by proper industrial treatment, and these oils can then be treated, after this treatment they can be safe for consumption by animals. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, the PUFAs. This is a very well known example, and the blood cholesterol lowering effect of the PUFA is very well known. So many advertisements as well as information has been given about the cholesterol lowering effect of PUFA, leading to decreased risk of CHDs, that is cardiovascular diseases. PUFAs can be found in large quantities in various vegetable oils. But along with this, there are certain adverse effects of PUFA, like the generation of vitamin deficiency. So the first discovery was PUFAs can reduce cholesterol, therefore we advocate it as a good PUFAs are good for health. But there is a small side effect that it can generation of vitamin E deficiency. PUFAs are easily oxidized during cooking and also during storage, and these two processes produces various mutagenic epoxides, enols, aldehydes, alkoxy and hydroperoxy radicals. So oxidation of PUFA, either because of storage or because of cooking, produces a large number of component radicals which are mutagenic. And epoxides of PUFA can also be formed by autooxidation. For example, if we take linoleic acid, which is a PUFA, the epoxides are toxic, whereas if we take arachidonic acid, the epoxides have a huge range of biological effects. So the manifestation of the effects will depend upon which is the PUFA we are talking about, but once they get epoxide formation or other radicals are formed, they do have mutagenic effects. The primary toxicity of the lipids is their role in chronic diseases like heart disease and cancer. Heart disease is not the only dominant factor of death, but it is also a primary cause for permanent disability and reduced ability to be active. So serious or lethal heart attack can cause immediate death, but you do have heart conditions getting developed, because of which your lifestyle has to be changed and your effectiveness or activity level would have to be changed. So it is a permanent cause of permanent disability. Proteins. Proteins are the building blocks of all living organisms. They are constructed of essential amino acids. They provide the breakdown of these proteins, give amino acids which are required by the body for growth and repair. and based on some 20 different amino acids, infinite combinations and arrangements, possibilities explain the wide variety of characteristics of proteins which are found in different types of organisms. Food safety problems are not generally associated with excessive intakes of natural sources of proteins, the exceptions being those occurring because of allergic reactions or hypersensitivity. See, normally protein is required for a person and you require definite amount of protein. So, that consumption of protein per se is not going to lead to poison or toxicity. But there are cases where some people can show allergic responses because or hypersensitiveness to a particular type of protein. And in some animal studies have shown that excessive ingestion of protein can lead to liver and kidney hypertrophy. And studies on humans have shown that ingestion of high protein diets increases calcium excretion. And that becomes a problem because calcium is, as you know, is an essential ion in many cell signal transduction pathways. It is also required for bones and the density. Vitamin toxicity. As you are all aware, there are two categories of vitamins, the fat soluble vitamins and the water soluble vitamins. The fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E and K. The water soluble vitamins are B and C. So, the fat soluble vitamins which are part of your diet, normally when you consume in excess or there is an excess in food, they will tend to get stored in the body fat deposits. So, excessive intake of such vitamins may result in accumulation of these vitamin deposits in the body fat, as a result of which you will have toxic effects. Large or excessive consumption of water soluble vitamins results in more body excretion of the compound, more in urine and sweat. But water soluble vitamins, if they are consumed in excess, they will get excreted out via sweat and urine. The intakes, large intakes of vitamin A and D are very well established to show classical symptoms of toxicity. Excessive intakes of vitamin A compounds result in permanent liver damage and stunted growth, and usually the toxic symptoms are reversed when the excessive intake is ceased or it is stopped. The common foods containing A and D is not a problem. It is the uncommon items like polar bear liver or shark or halibut and cod liver oils that can become problematic and give an excess dose of A and D, which in turn can lead to toxicity. Acute toxicity can appear in a matter of hours. Symptoms include anorexia, bulging fontanelles, hyperirritability, vomiting, headaches, dizziness, drowsiness and erythemata swelling. Chronic toxicity may take a few to several months to get expressed. The clinical symptoms like would be anorexia, headache, sore muscles, bleeding lips, hair loss, crackling and peeling skin, nosebleed, liver enlargement, etc. Excessive vitamin D intake have resulted in various toxic effects including death. The excessive ingestion of exogenous natural resources like fish liver oils or supplements can lead to hypercalcemia, membrane damage, hypertension, cardiac insufficiency, renal failure and hypochromic anemia. And in all these cases, once the excessive consumption of the vitamin is stopped, the symptoms can be reversed. High intakes of vitamin E and vitamin K normally are non-toxic, but excess amounts of vitamin E can antagonize the vitamin K role in clotting mechanism. So, excess of vitamin E can inhibit or interfere with blood clotting. And although vitamin K is fat soluble, normally it is readily excreted from the body. The water soluble vitamins. When compared to the fat soluble vitamins, excess dosage of water soluble vitamins tend to have fewer toxic effects, mainly because the water soluble vitamins are not retained in the body to the same extent that the fat soluble vitamins. Niacin. Side effects are associated with large therapeutic dose because you do take vitamin B supplements. therapeutic doses of niacin. The nicotinic acid in large doses can result in vasodilative effects, and the symptoms can include flushing reaction, cramps, headache and nausea. Therapeutic levels of niacin have been used successfully to reduce serum cholesterol, but with accompanying reversible side effects. Folacin. The major concern with the use of high levels of folic acid is the masking pernicious anemia, which results because of vitamin B12 deficiency. High doses, that is greater than 15 milligram of folic acid, is associated with gastrointestinal, irritability, malaise, hyperexcitability, disturbed sleep and vivid dreams. And this is a picture of the pernicious anemia. This is your normal blood cell, and this is the megaloblastic anemia, which is caused, the blood cell which is megaloblastic because it is deficient in vitamin B12. The red blood cells are large, immature and nucleated and do not function well. Normally, the mature red blood cell does not contain a nucleus and it is not as large as this. So, this megaloblastic anemic red cell is large, immature and nucleated, and its functions are impaired. And this is because of the impaired absorption of vitamin B12, mainly due to the lack of intrinsic factor in the gastric mucosa. Vitamin B6 or pyridoxal. Pyridoxal hydrochloride, it demonstrates an oral toxicity of 2 grams per kilogram body weight or 20 times the therapeutic recommended dose for peripheral neuritis. And such doses result in convulsive disorder and the inhibition of prolactin secretion. The remainder water-soluble B vitamins, pantothenic acid and thiamine, show few adverse effects and certainly none from the dietary sources. Next topic we are going to talk about are the toxicity of excess doses of minerals and trace elements. The first among them is magnesium. Excessive intake or administration of magnesium salts can give rise to hypermagnesemia, and such patients have concomitant renal failure. Neuromuscular symptoms are very common, and the non-specific symptoms include nausea, vomiting and cutaneous flushing. Iron. Iron overloads or excessive dose can be a serious issue for many people. The best defined example of iron overload is hereditary hemochromatosis. This hereditary hemochromatosis is an autosomally recessive inherited disease. And in hemochromatosis, the iron is absorbed in excess. So, what is required over and above that, you are going to absorb iron from your diet or from whatever is the source. So, this excess of iron will get accumulated and it will be non-protein bound iron, as a result of which you will have the saturation of transferrin. So, subsequent parenchymal iron loading results in clinical complications of diabetes mellitus, endocrine abnormalities, cardiomyopathy, arthritis, liver cirrhosis and hepatic cancer. So, excess of iron is actually a serious issue becomes. Zinc. Long term intakes of 6 to 20 times the required daily source can produce overt zinc toxicity. Symptoms of zinc toxicity include impaired immune response, reduction in high density lipoprotein or which is HDL, cholesterol levels and induced copper deficiency, which in turn will lead to anemia. The acute effects of high zinc intake are vomiting, epigastric pain, fatigue and lethargy. Copper. Once the capacity of the liver to bind copper is exceeded, toxicity starts manifesting. Weakness, listlessness and anorexia are early signs of copper toxicity, and this is followed by hepatic necrosis, vascular collapse, coma and death. So, minerals and trace elements, they have to be sufficient, otherwise the metabolism would be affected, but excess also becomes toxic. Manganese. Oral toxicity of manganese is rare, but airborne manganese from industrial sources or automobile emissions can be very toxic, resulting in pancreatitis and neurological disorders similar to schizophrenia and Parkinson's disease. Selenium. The range between adequate selenium and toxicity is very narrow. Adequate selenium is 0.1 milligram per, and your toxic level is 2 milligram per kilogram of diet. So the range is actually very low. Selenium toxicity in humans brings on symptoms of nausea, weakness and diarrhea. Eventually hair loss, changes in the nails, mottling of the teeth and lesions of the skin, and finally inhibition or impairment of the nervous system will happen. In this lecture, we saw how the essential components like lipids, amino acids, vitamins, minerals and trace elements can become toxic when the dose becomes high. So, what is the daily required dose that has to be consumed and that has to be made available? At the same time, excess dosage of these minerals and trace elements are going to be deleterious to the health concerned. We will discuss about the other toxic factors in subsequent lectures. The questions for this session are: list the potential health problems that could be associated with the consumption of raw fish. Discuss the suggestion that overconsumption of macronutrients may cause chronic diseases, or explain the consequence of macronutrient toxicity. Thank you.